Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Miss Raga's Art Room. All right, so we've made some spirals, we've made some loops, okay, we've made even some more spirals, and now it's time for us to start doing some assemblage. So what you'll need to do is grab a cardboard base from me. Whoop. I just get scrap board from the high school from mounting, but you could use, if you're working at home, you don't have a board like this, cereal box, cracker boxes, that kind of like cardboardy, like thin cardboard material works great, okay? So again, this can be like total, like I said, I get the scrap mat board from the high school, but if you want to do if you had to get another material at home, that like cardboard material of cereal boxes is great. Okay, so get some of that. You'll need a pair of scissors and a Sharpie. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to create your base. Now you could leave it the square if you wanted, but I think a fun thing to do with this is to actually cut a different shape out. Now you can see when I've already started to assemble, what I've done is I've kind of cut and created this interesting shape. Now what I'm actually going to do is add an additional little like platform to my sculpture. So that's what I think I'm going to cut out of here. And I'm going to start maybe just on one end because I don't think I need really the whole board for this. I think I'm going to do kind of like a shape like that. Okay, so actually what I'll do is so somebody else could use more of this board, I'm just going to cut nicely down the center there. And then this piece of board is still good for someone else to use. I'm just going to trim my shape. And what you have to do, particularly with my thicker cardboard or that cereal box paper, is you got to get the cardboard right into the mouth of the scissors. If you try cutting at the ends like this, nothing's going to happen. You don't have enough force. You need to get right into that groove, right into the mouth. And go slow. Take your time. If you get to a space where you can't get the scissor in, cut that little piece out, right? Rotate, go from another direction. Kind of work it a little bit at a time. If you really get into a space you can't get to work with the scissors, come see me. I'll get my box cutter out or the X-Acto blade, and we can get you all done and sorted. Okay, this last little bit here. There we go. Now I can get that last little bit out. Cool. All right, and I think I want to actually round that corner a little bit more. You know, I think a little free-form cut. I think I want to shape that a bit more. A little kidney shape there. Cool. All right, I like that. Okay, now if this were my base, I'd write my name on it, okay? And of course your period, this is, you know, 2A or your blocker, you know, 4B, right? But since this is just a part of an existing base, I already have my name on it, okay? I'm just going to attach. And what I want to do is kind of create a little separate level, I think, off of here. Now, with the hot glue guns, remember, hot glue is hot, hot glue is hot, hot glue is hot. You should not be sticking your fingers in the hot glue. And hot glue sticks by heating up to become liquid or viscous, okay? And then when it cools, that's when it's got its structural strength. So you do have to be a little bit patient, because sometimes we get going and we're like, yes, I'm ready, this is gonna be awesome, this is gonna work, and you're like, come on, come on, come on, cool. So you gotta give it time to cool down enough so that it's firm and becomes structural. Because again, remember on your rubric, one of the components is, hey, is your sculpture, you know, stable, structurally stable? All right, so I think I'm going to kind of remember working with angles. We're offsetting. I think I'm going to start with this. So again, let's go back to some of the requirements we talked about on the rubric. No part of your sculpture should be just a straight stacked tower as a main component, right? No wedding cake syndromes. Let me hold that up. Why? It's not that it's bad. It can be a part of your sculpture, but it's not that interesting. Remember, I'm looking for you to use pieces on angles, interesting negative space, use things off center, okay? Because that's going to give you just more visual interest, and it's a requirement of that rubric, right? Going back to that, okay? And then it's just simple. We're just going to continue gluing on up. All right, so I'm going to put that down. And as I build, I always try to like get rid of those little glue strings. They drive me nuts, drive me absolutely crazy. You know what I think I might do? This might be cool. I might do like a little, that's kind of neat. I kind of like how that might look. All right, I'm gonna do a little hot glue there. Ooh, careful with my fingers. A little hot glue there. I can try creating this kind of little offset guy. Okay, that's interesting. I like how that looks at like that interesting negative space it gives me. It's on this interesting angle. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, now let's do something cool with this, with like maybe visually connecting these two pieces. I'm thinking maybe something like that. I want the loop. The whole point of the loop is having this interesting like peekaboo window negative space we can look through. So I think I want to kind of maintain that and have that as a section there. See, I think we'll put that in. I think I like that. Put that like there. I think I'll add a little glue just in between to hold that together. Again, as you're sculpting, you know, those little glue strings, those don't look so good, so use your fingers to kind of pick those out of there. Before we do our finish work, we'll certainly take time to really clean up with scissors and our fingers any extra little glue strings we see in there. Okay, I kind of like the balance I have. Remember, balance is a component of your rubric. You know, you shouldn't have like all your stuff just on one side of your sculpture. It should kind of be evenly spread throughout the base shape you've created. I've got kind of a bit of a negative space over here, but I've got an idea for that, which I'll cover next. I see this spiral maybe happening in parallel to this one. Maybe something off this side there. Ooh, or I could continue to build off this edge. That would be kind of interesting. Off this side here. Maybe that's where I'll add that one. Right? It's free form. Sometimes this can be frustrating though, right? You're like, okay, this should look like something. This is non-objective art. It doesn't have to look like anything. You're just figuring out interesting angles, interesting negative, interesting positive space, and sometimes that can be really, really fun, and sometimes that can be really, really frustrating. So, you know, patience with yourself. You're exploring this space. Right? Something a little bit new, something a little bit different in art. All right, cool. That's got kind of an interesting rhythm to it. I like the flow of the spiral. Okay, now one thing you can do as well is you can actually build with just paper strips. Now you can create soft, flexible curves. You can let them dry straight and build with them straight, but it's a way of actually formally using line in your sculpture. Now, if you do want them to be in a curve like this, you have to work with the strip when you've just created it and that glue is still soft and flexible. If you want to work with it as a straight line you're just going to cut up, then you can let it dry in a straight line. But in order to sculpt the curve, it's got to be flexible first, and then you can go ahead and kind of shape it and sculpt it. So I kind of have the idea for this negative space that maybe we'll create a line or a loop that draws our viewer's eye kind of in and under the platform like that. So I'm going to secure at one end first, where I kind of want the line to begin with my strip, and give it a minute to firm up. Right? Remember, we got to wait for that glue to cool enough that's going to hold. And you just kind of give it a little tug. Yep, that's good there. Okay. Now I'm going to decide what happens with the loop. Do I want to curl and go away? I kind of want to keep drawing it back into the sculpture. Ooh, maybe I draw it into the loop this way. That's kind of interesting. I like that idea. That creates kind of a cool visual that way. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so see, this is kind of the discovery that you have happen when you're doing this free form and just figuring out, you know, shapes and lines and movement that you like. I'm just going to hold that for a minute till it sticks. Okay. Now don't forget your requirements of spirals. I'm actually short a few spirals. I need to add a few more. So I'm going to continue sculpting here. Because remember, spirals and open loops count as spirals, but the lines are just line. And I want you to have a minimum of those 15 spirals that you're working with. Okay, and there we go. that is starting the build of your sculpture. So I'm going to continue doing some building work here, and then visit me at my next video for talking about the finishing work, applying the base coat of paint, and then picking your metallic coat that you'd like to put over it. All right, thanks for joining me today in Miss Raga's Art Room.